Cutback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal on his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and unlike the Philadelphia Union, I finally got my act together as we didn't come in with a muted intro. But getting back to the Philadelphia Union, I just had to take a slight jab at myself. Yeah, your Philadelphia Union folks lose to Atlanta United yesterday, 3-1. Start the season 4 straight losses, first time in club history, and just when you think things couldn't get any worse, they suddenly get worse with a 4-game losing streak. It was the battle of the 2 winless teams. And yeah, the Union were unable to put away chances. And I feel like that's been the story the last couple of weeks here. And it's frustrating. So Jose and I yesterday celebrated his son Rafael's birthday party. Did not watch the game or much of the game yesterday, and both of us had to sit through that game this morning to watch what you guys went through during live time. And man, what a game to have to go back and watch. So we had something to talk about. But Jose, how are you doing? I'm sure a little bit tired, but excited to go ahead or get going and talk about this game.
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. Thank you for coming yesterday. Little known secret, I guess, by especially our inner orbit. My kids are incredibly fond of Todd. It's comical to an extent. And Todd came over, which is a hike, which is very, very kind of him to do. But the kids absolutely loved having family over. Rafael turned 6, which is incredible to me to even think that I have a 6-year-old. But all that to say that I certainly did not. I know you were trying to watch little by little on your phone and just peek every now and then. But I was getting the alerts via FOTMob on my watch, and every single time it would buzz, I would look at Todd, and Todd would just go, don't look. And so finally watching it today, so many thoughts about this game, this performance, the club as a whole. But I think in my typical half full type of mentality that I live by, I think that there's still a lot of good stuff going on within it. It's just the little things that just mount up, pile up really during a game that are just killing this team. So eager to chat about it as the USA just scored a run against the Dominican Republic. Tied game, Gunnar Henderson hit a home run. So there you go. That's your guy.
I should go and pull out the jersey now. What a call. What a call. But yeah. A lot to discuss from this game. And we had said on Twitter, I know I had posted on Instagram that we know what direction we want to take this show, but we also want to take live call-ins. So I do have the link to the StreamYard if you guys want to hop in here and give your thoughts, talk about this game, talk about the season overall. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you guys can go to the show description for this episode and click on the link, and it'll bring you into the studio, and then I'll bring you guys on if you guys want to share your thoughts. If you guys are watching on Twitter or anywhere else, you guys can hit Jose and I up on Twitter, and I'd imagine most of you guys are watching on Twitter, and so you guys know what Jose's handle is. You can hit me up on Twitter too at It's a Todd's Life. Instagram, you can hit up at Free Kick Pod or It's a Todd's Life _. And we would love to bring you guys in here to let you guys just vent, because ultimately this is your guys' show. But I said it, we do have a plan in place in case nobody does want to go out and vent their frustrations from this game or games in the past. But we'll go ahead and get this started, Jose, real quick, and just talk about the, I guess, not trying to get into too many specifics from this game. The Union can see the first 3 goals in this game, get a late goal by Augustine Anello. Finally, the Union score a goal from open play, not from the penalty spot. Thank goodness. they had opportunities in this game, Jose. That's what we're getting to. Multiple chances for the Union after we just I guess quickly debrief what this game was. Three straight goals given up, a lot of slipping and sliding in this game, which I don't know. I mean, yes, it is nice to see Atlanta have actual grass and not turf, because Atlanta is one of the host cities for the World Cup, and FIFA requires all host stadiums to have natural grass. And so they took the turf off, put natural grass in there. And there was a lot of slipping and sliding going on here in this game, Jose. But the Union have been pretty good defensively this season and concede the first 3 goals. Not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And 3 goals that were just, I don't know how you would describe them, Todd, but that second one being the most painful, honestly, the one that just sort of a give and go, and then a cross everybody sort of watches and it gets tapped in. But all around, just lethargic ass game. And of course, like you and I were watching the replay, but of course the Union are the ones to give Emmanuel Latela his first goal of the season. A player who's having is it fair to call it a tragic run in MLS since joining? I don't know, nine goals in a season in 3 games with Atlanta. But as I said from the top, I think that there's a lot of really positives about this game in terms of little things that the Union are doing well, but they're being overshadowed and ultimately outdone by the little things that they're doing wrong in terms of, I highlighted a few of them earlier today on Twitter, and I'm by far not the best person at breaking down film and explaining film, etc. But getting beat by give and goes, giving up on plays. I think we watched a couple of players get beat on a play and then they just sort of jog back rather than sprinting back. Also seeing a lot of really odd decisions in terms of passing, just really, really goofy things that we haven't seen from this team in a little while. I know that, crash out accounts on Twitter are going bananas over last year was all luck and, Carnell doesn't know what he's doing, etc. And sure, maybe some of it is true, but I think the reality is that, there was certainly roster turnover, but I don't know that I would go as far as saying that last year was fortunate luck, things were falling their way, versus this year. I think it's a combination of a few things. And I know we've talked about out loud into the podcast about the schedule congestion, especially early on, where last year they were not focusing on anything but MLS. Sure, roster turnover. They've been fortunate to not really deal with too many injuries that are like immediately, apparent, as maybe Carnell felt while he was in St. Louis during his second season. But for sure, one of those really odd starts that bottom of the table. But let me put this forth to you and maybe the rest of the group. Fortunate for Carnell, maybe in a way, he's not Pat Noonan getting beat 6-1 against New England, right? So I think it's tough. It's because this could all disappear. And I sort of spoke this, maybe I'm willing it into existence, Todd, but this is genuinely a world now where the Union can go 0-4 in MLS, and somehow if they pull 2 goals against Club America in Mexico, which feels unbelievably unlikely, they go through in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Like, that would be a really weird scenario, but it's possible now with this loss in Atlanta. I don't know what you thought all in all about that performance and certainly the goals scored against.
Yeah, we can go ahead and talk about, I guess, the goals. Yeah, we can go ahead and talk about the goals that the Union conceded. I don't think that these are goals that we really saw the Union concede a ton of last season. I think the Union's press was just easily beat. And we've seen that in numerous games this season. The Union are always going to be a pressing team, or at least attempt to be a pressing team. And teams have evidently found them out and have been able to get past that first line of pressure from the forwards. And when you look at the first goal, and I don't want to take the risk of playing any clips right now, and maybe we do that later, but if you look at how the first goal was scored, Jose, the midfield, it was just quick passing from Atlanta. Started out of the back, and you had Frankie Westfield push up high in the field like he normally is. The Union usually have one of their fullbacks up high, and because of that, then you slot Nathan Harriel out wide to cover for that. And the passing by Atlanta just cut through the Union's midfield way too easy. It was a long ball over the top and just quick passing. And then Macania kind of gets caught in no man's land once Armiron's on the ball. Does he put pressure to the ball? Because Stanley John-Jock and Jovan Lukic allow Armiron to just slip on through. So he hesitates for a little bit. And that little hesitation, Armiron picks out the pass, and Latte Lot's now in behind. It's unfortunate for Macania where he has to think, okay, do I follow the man? Do I play the ball? And makes one quick decision to fake the step. And as soon as he does that, he gets beat. When you look at the goal that comes out of the second half, the second and third goal, just easy passing. And they cut through the Union's fullbacks way too easily. I thought overall, yes, Frankie Westfield, we'll probably talk about him numerous times tonight, but I do think that he was the Union's best player, but does get called out on at least two of the goals that the Union conceded. The first goal, and then the second or third goal, I can't remember, when they go down the right side of the field, and then the ball eventually winds up on the left side. But not even so much Frankie Westfield. It was so many long balls over the top that took both Danley and Jovan Lukic out of this game. And once you bypass that midfield, now you need your defenders to win their 1v1 matchups. And the truth is, Jose, they're just not winning their 1v1 matchups. Or at least in this game, they didn't. Yes, coming into this game, the Union had looked, for the most part, good defensively in all competitions, and they conceded 3 goals. The most that they've conceded this season. They conceded 2 goals against New York City a couple of weeks ago. But we're seeing the Union just get beat way too easy. Just simple stuff. Just so direct from Atlanta, quick passing, and the Union can't apply the pressure fast enough, and it starts with the press. The press is non-existent right now for this team, or it is existent, but they're not closing down players fast enough. And that's a recipe for a disaster with this team. If they can't put that first line of pressure on with the forwards, they are going to struggle.
Yeah. I feel like, and please, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like this season, and I don't know if it's out of watching more Nate at center back than ever before. I think now, even at this point, I know he was sort of emergency center back the last couple of years. I think Carnell is really fully embracing that with the rotating cast. I don't know what the deal is with Sari Larson, or if it was just straight up rest for the Club America game later this week. But I think I've watched Nate do the move where he gets behind a player trying to close them down, sort of like slightly like hugs them, but he doesn't get his body wide enough to try to, not let the ball be flicked or anything. And then lets the player get the pass on, and then, gets beat very much so there. I don't know if this feels like the season where I watched it the most out of him. And I feel for the dude, but man, like, you're a leader, and I feel like I watched the guy get, have that situation happen to him where he gets beat, spun around, whatever, and then like the jog back is just, like comical in a way, and I feel that calling out the dude. There's so many other things we could call out, but like, it's just it seems like yes, teams are very obvious, it's very obvious that they are foregoing trying to break through the Danley and the Jovan and just skipping them all over by pumping balls over the top. I don't know, man. I'm at a loss for words on defensively outside of the growing pains. Like, what else is going on? I know the Club America game, there were a couple instances where players were, I think about Aneo and Macania running into each other, trying to pass the ball back to Blake. Like, okay, that's a clear signal that there's still something missing there. And those are obviously not two defenders, but two players, period. That after as long as they've been practicing since preseason, you'd think that there'd be a little bit better communication. And I think Carnell said it best, nailed it in his press conference, which it was pretty palpable how frustrated he is with the players. And for him to say, we're not doing the little things right is just so perfect, because that's exactly what's happening. They're getting beat on easy plays that are things that they can adjust, and they probably practice to adjust, but then they fall off somewhere else, making them susceptible to get scored on. So I don't know what it's going to take to turn this around, other than perfecting the little things. And sure, they crossed off the scoring off an open play. That's awesome. But how about scoring early from open play, right? That second minute opportunity that Damiani has. I was kind of shocked that didn't go in. But I've been rambling for a little bit.
No, you're good. I want to bring up this comment by Pat Logan. He says, "Don't buy the Bradley Carnell year 2 fade talks. When you move on from your top scorer, best defender, and top left back in MLS, expect growing pains." And there was a lot of fans on social media that I was seeing move on from Carnell, and people that typically aren't negative just fed up with what they've seen 4 games into the MLS season. And I've seen a lot of non-Union fans saying, "Oh, this is typical Bradley Carnell year 2. We saw it in St. Louis." And I agree with Pat here, Jose. I don't necessarily think this is year 2 in St. Louis for Bradley Carnell in Philadelphia right now. I think, yeah, he hits the nail right on the head. To expect growing pain. You move on from a Kai Wagner, best defender, best left back in the league, been with the club since 2019. And I thought it was interesting too. I would imagine you probably listened to this game in Spanish, Jose.
Yeah.
So in the English broadcast, and I'm a little bit surprised that Bradley Carnell, I'm assuming this is a direct quote that they shared on the English feed. But Bradley Carnell said, "Yeah, we can't replace Kai Wagner. We just had to go out there and sign somebody to fill in, to play a left back." And the Union go out there and they get Ndinga. And that kind of seems a little damning to me, Jose. A little damning if that is a direct quote from Bradley Carnell to the Apple commentators saying, "Yeah, we just had to go out there and find somebody, sign somebody to fill in, to play left back. We needed a left back." It's kind of damning. If I'm reading into that too much, then I do apologize. But I read that as, yeah, we were kind of caught off guard from Kai Wagner being sold. Yes, there was reports out there that I believe his name was Arias from France that the Union wasn't able to get a deal done because his team didn't want to sell because they were fighting relegation. And so they go and pivot for Ndinga. But that kind of makes me wonder that, yeah, is it a panic buy from the Union because they knew they needed a left back and they go out and sign Ndinga? And I think he'll be fine. 2 games, I think he's looked okay. Still getting caught up to speed and everything, but I thought that was a pretty damning comment, if that is a direct quote from Bradley Carnell to the Apple commentators.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I'll have to ask you later, or if you can just put it into our chat or separate chat when that comment was, minute wise, so I can listen and clip it, because that is a very interesting thing to have said. I mean, listen, you can't help but to believe what the commentators are saying. I mean, if you recall, that's where the whole Cavan was supposed to start in Canada, but because of work laws or whatever comment came out, it was just interesting. So I'm intrigued about that. Yeah. It's not a good sign if they settled for a player, right, to play the position versus going and finding the right fit. Thank you for sharing that anecdote.
Yeah, it was, I think, the first 15, 17 minutes into the game. So I'll go ahead and I'm sure you'll listen to it after the game. And, yeah, I mean, it was a crazy comment. I could not believe that they said that on the broadcast. And then after they said that, they just kept talking about Kai Wagner. And I think that tells you right there just how important Kai Wagner really, truly is to this Union
Was this
team.
the Fox broadcast, by the way?
No, it was the Apple. Lori Lindsay and Jessica Sharman.
Okay, now that makes That makes a lot of sense. Okay, it makes sense because I got a message about something else. I'll have to tell you later. That's a very interesting because I think is it Lloyd Sam? I think he was on the Fox
Yeah, yeah.
call. Former Charlotte guy,
Yeah,
or maybe still there.
and it's so funny too because Jessica Charmaine used to be the Charlotte play-by-play
Yes,
on radio or a color,
yeah.
one of them.
And the Fox broadcast still had the graphic for Gazdag coming in. Apparently, I saw that picture going around. No, and then for those that don't know it, I and Todd does know this, but I watch all the soccer games in Spanish. I play most of my video games in Spanish as well, just to flex that muscle. So it's good to kind of have Todd listen to the English broadcast, and then I get to listen to the American, and we sort of share notes onto what they said if they say something like this, which is kind of crazy that they would go on to admit like that, or Bradley Carnell go and admit. And I had hoped that maybe that wasn't supposed to get out.
For sure. All right. So we do have somebody backstage in the studio. Let's go ahead and bring them on. The name, it says AKIB. What's up? Thanks for joining the show.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, man.
All right. I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple of things. So last night, it looked like Frankie Westphal was grabbing his hamstring a couple of times. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Also didn't seem as quick, even though his crossing was fine. Everything else was fine. Is there any insider info, Jose, about Frankie Westphal carrying anything or anything going on? Because he won the full 90, but it didn't look like he was as comfortable, as athletic as he usually is.
I must admit, I didn't notice the grabbing of the hamstring. Were you watching? See, this is what's really interesting.
I watched it on. I didn't watch it live. I watched it on online.
Okay. Did you
watch? Also made a face a couple of times where I'm like, all right, this guy's definitely carrying something, But
yeah. So you watched it on Apple. I'm intrigued because sometimes I feel like the angles. Sometimes it feels like on Fox for some of those games, the angle of the camera feels wider, so you get to see more versus what you would get on Apple. But then thank you for jumping on. I didn't notice anything. I actually thought that, and Todd, you can give me your thoughts too. I thought Frankie was by far the best player on that field yesterday, in my opinion. Yeah, sure, Aneo scored, but it was off of a Frankie Westphal assist. I actually thought that he was as athletic as he could be, considering that he was probably a little, not nervous, but playing a little bit more conservative, considering how much Atlanta were really pounding the sides of the field to go down and get crosses in or put through balls in. So, no, I didn't notice any injuries. I'll have to ask around. Thank you for lifting that up.
Also, another thing is, I'm guessing Matane is probably gone for the over the summer, just with all the center backs we brought in. How confident are you with Larson, Finn Sundstrom? He's playing with Union 2 now. And then even Harriel, if he fills in center back, how confident are you if he is gone? Because it looks like I would be very surprised if he stays here until after the World Cup.
That's all you, Todd. What do you think?
No, I think he's gone 100%. I think regardless if he gets caught up to the national team with South Africa, I think he's gone, because Jose and I had talked about it. I feel like a couple months ago, Jose, where his contract's a little bit in limbo. That option he has for 2027, is that for the shortened season, or is that going to be through the whole season? So I would imagine that the Union are going to want to try to get as close to max value out of Makanya. But if he does get caught up to the South African national team for the World Cup and plays well, then that's only going to raise his value even more. And so how could the Union potentially say no to selling Makanya if they get a big enough offer in the summertime? Same could be said for Danley John Jock. I think any Union player, minus maybe Andre Blake if Jamaica qualifies, I think Danley or Makanya, if they make it to the World Cup, they play well with South Africa and Haiti, how can the Union say no to offers? I don't know how you feel about that, Jose, but I do think Makanya's gone one way or another, just because he's coming towards the end of his deal. I would be shocked if he renews his contract. And yeah, I do think Gainer Martinez was probably a signing to prepare for Makanya eventually leaving. Siri Larson was obviously brought in to replace Glesnes, and we haven't seen him start now in the last 2 games. I know Bradley Carnell had said that Siri Larson had suffered an injury against San Jose, but it wasn't too serious. But I do wonder how serious that injury is now that we haven't seen him start in the last 2 games.
Yeah, and to be honest, he also hasn't been part of certainly not this last one, the injury report ahead of the match. There was no indication that Sari Larsson's carrying some questionable injury or an injury that would make him a questionable player for the roster, et cetera. So I don't think I've watched enough of Sari Larsson to really make that call. I could say the same about Gainer Martinez, another player that I don't know that I've watched enough to see what where they truly fill in. I thought Gainer would have had a better outing against Club America, considering that those are sort of the games that he was brought on to play, right? In terms of, sure, high level, but that South American / gritty game that is hard to replicate even in MLS, the way that those are played. In terms of Macania, I think that one of the best things to happen to the Union staff, meaning the front office, to the technical staff, and everybody in between, certainly the scouting department, was a way through getting this preliminary call up to the national team, and it'll be a bigger pop in those offices if he does indeed get called, and even louder pop if Macania gets to see minutes in an international game. Just that's because that value just skyrockets once he starts getting appearances with the national team, even if it's 3-4 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes with a national team at a first team basis, like that's a senior team, I should say. That's massive for the value. So I personally don't expect him to honestly finish the season here. I think you're spot on. But if he does finish the season, I don't think he starts. I guess next year would be the sprint season, right? The early one. Yeah. I don't think he's here certainly to start the sprint season, because wasn't he the first instance, Todd, of the way that they announced it, of the short season. I can't remember if it was him or somebody else who got that contract renewal or extension, but is it Akib? I don't know how you pronounce it. Akib, yep. Thank you so much for hopping on, man. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. I know you guys are starting out with not a lot of followers, but I appreciate the episode. It's a good here when I'm at work. So
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for jumping on. I want to see sexy Hoagie get on, because she talks that talk. I want to see her. Mandy is another one that should get on. Yeah, Mandy Kennedy. Wolfie, get on. Get on the link. We're eager to hear from people about last night's game.
Yeah, and like I said, the link is in the show description on YouTube. So just click the show description. You guys can click on that, and then it'll bring you into the show. We'll bring you into the show. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and we'll send you guys a link if you guys want to go ahead and vent about this game, or if you guys want to vent about the season as a whole so far. But let's go ahead, Jose, and keep this going. Missed opportunities for this team once again. And I know there was a lot of comments in there from fans that I guess we kind of bypassed. So again, Akib, thank you so much for joining, and that is open for everybody else. But in the comment section, people don't believe Bradley Carnell's in danger of being sacked, and I don't think so. We will see. I mean, as this goes on, and somebody I mentioned, okay, if they go 6-7 games with losses, what about then? And even then, I said it last year, Jose, where Bradley Carnell's in the last year of his contract. Why would you fire him in his last year of his contract? You just simply let him see out the season. You don't give him a new contract after this season, and then you bring in a new head coach. And now maybe the Union would want to bring in a new head coach and see what he can get out of the pieces that he has. But I don't know. I don't see Jay Sugarman wanting to pay another coach out when he's still paying Jim Curtin out. But moving on to missed opportunities, and my goodness, Jose, there were so many misses last night. You had the Damiani chance in the 3rd minute of the game, which could change the whole complexity of this game if you put that ball in the back of the net. I was a little surprised too, Jose, that it wasn't a header attempt from Damiani. He sticks his foot out there, but notice it was a quick transition moment from the Union. They win the ball back, hit on the counterattack. We haven't seen a lot of that this season, but I thought 3 minutes into the game, all right, this is a positive sign. The Union break quickly. It's a first-time cross from Indiana Vasilov. We finally see him out wide, not centrally. Plays in a great ball for Damiani. But he can't put that one on target, Jose. Can't put that one on target. You've got to put that on target at least. If you're not scoring, you've got to put it on target. And that's a huge miss. You go ahead and look at, obviously, Alowski missing the penalty. I thought actually it probably was the right pace, good accuracy too, to go bottom corner. It just gets a little bit unfortunate, I think, hitting the post. But again, when you have a penalty that Damiani draws, gets clobbered upside the head, a little bit surprised maybe that it wasn't a red card where he gets hit, just clubbed in the back of his head. But regardless, you didn't get a penalty kick. And when you get gifted an opportunity like that, where, let's face it, Jose, the ball gets crossed, and I believe it winds up going on the right side of the field. Damiani's not near the ball, but he does get hit, and the referee says penalty. You got to convert that chance. You have Aneo, who had a chance with Bedoya in the second half. It's a typical Alejandro Bedoya cutback pass. Doesn't even put that one on target. Frankie Westfield hits the post in the second half. It was just so many missed opportunities, Jose, in this game. And I feel like it's been the story so far this season, just creating limited opportunities. And when they do, can't hit the target.
And it sounds stupid, but I'm a firm believer that you can technically score too early in a soccer game, right? Like you can score too early, and then you're just sort of hoping to cling on to a goal. And I say that partly jokingly, but the Union score some of these early opportunities that they've had in different games. Like a second-minute goal would have done wonders for the confidence of these players in Atlanta, of all places. If I recall correctly, in the post-match press conference, Carnell also spoke about, I don't know did he use the word anxiety or it was something along.
We're going to play that clip too. He said anxiety.
Okay. And I think an early goal in any of these upcoming games would just do wonders for these players, especially with how young they are, to feel, oh shit, we're in the front foot for once. We're not having to claw out of this or get scored on late in the second half and then pray that they can put one in. And I really appreciate that Bradley, as the kids would say, kept at 100 on the post-game press conference, because I think he had enough of the dumb mistakes that some of these players are making, right? Of these bonehead plays. And I think that includes missing opportunities. I'm not quite sure why Milan Alowski took that penalty kick. I would have thought maybe Damiani was going to slam it in, right? Or attempt, who knows, in a different universe. Yeah, sure. Oh my God, that guy just sort of robbed the home run. In a different world, Damiani takes that and maybe misses it as well. Who knows? But the reality is that these chances just need to be converted early, because otherwise you get into this negative. How many times did I complain to you, Todd, about Daniel Gastak just like half the time? Like, and he's a hot name right now because everybody thinks that, he would be great to bring back. Absolutely not. He would be a terrible piece to add back to the squad. But how many times did we see players like him just like throw their arms in the air when balls weren't coming or passes were missed, etc.? I feel like there's been a lot of that this year with this team so early in the season, where players are just yelling at each other and making faces, making comments, just. And I think there's obviously something to be said about trying to push each other to be better, etc. But it doesn't feel like it's that right now. And obviously we're not on the field, but if you're to go off of body gesture, it's not good. What you're seeing on the field after some of these plays missed. Even I think I saw the one replay, Jovan Lukic on the second goal, where Ndinga gets sort of caught just letting the ball go across to the guy behind him. Jovan Lukic is sprinting back to try to get in the way of the play, and then looks at Ndinga and says, like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? Right. And sure, Ndinga deserves a little bit of slack, considering that he's been tossed into two pretty hard environments: an away game at Subaru Park against Club America and an away game at Mercedes-Benz with a pretty big crowd too. So that would be tough. We have some Gastag stands over Hoagie and Philly Rover. Leave it to them to be the stands for Gastag. So I don't know, man. They just need something to fall their way early to build that confidence. At least that's what I sense. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I mean, one hand, okay, it is good that the Union are creating these chances. They just cannot find the back of the net for the life of them. Yes, they finally do score a goal from open play late in this game with Anello, but
a good goal.
It was
Very
a good goal. A good goal. Good play from Alejandro Bedoya crossing to Frankie. Good header by Frankie to put that across the box, and then good positioning there by Anello. But then you go and look. I mean, it's a little bit of a similar play, a little bit of a similar area where Anello was for when Bedoya plays that cutback pass. Doesn't even put that on target. How don't you put that chance on target? You've got to hit the target. And we've seen that so many times this season. And I love Damiani. I know you love Damiani too, Jose, but he's missed a lot of golden chances. And I think Mikal Uhre, here's an example. I think maybe the fan base towards the end started to appreciate what he brought. I think now they're really starting to appreciate what Mikal Uhre brought, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. But Damiani's not making those runs in behind. I don't think his pressing's been great. And so if he's not going to do any of that stuff, you got to put the ball in the back of the net. And he's not even doing that right now. And I know Damiani's come and talked about how he's been pretty upset with them being too predictable. And I don't know if they were really that predictable this game, Jose. I really don't. Defensively, they got beat way too easily. They created chances, just couldn't convert those chances.
Yeah, and I don't know that predictability was an issue here because I don't know if who listens to what of what we say. I know that people within the organization do listen. I don't know how much it proliferates, and I'm not expecting that it does much because I think we're just two idiots talking into microphones, and we have kind people who interact with us for what it's worth. But again, lo and behold, we watch this game and Frankie Westfield's pumping in balls from far away. Then he's driving the ball in, and then he's dribbling at people, like taking different approaches to get it done. And what do you get? I think a man of the match performance for the Union, and him being the best player that they could field that day, because he's doing what Kai Wagner did, which is switch it up from time to time. Across from far, across from short, dribble at somebody, step on it, pass it back, like just doing different things. And that's exactly what Frankie did this game, whether he was injured or not. I don't know did you see at any moment him? I don't think I saw it, but I'm also not discounting Akib's message or thoughts there. But man, I always disliked in a way, and maybe there's truth to this, Todd, and I'm eager to hear how you feel about it, but I never really liked the ball's not bouncing our way mentality. I get it and I don't get it. But the Union need to make their own luck. And I think, again, it starts by doing the little things right. And that's how you begin making your luck, not hoping that the other team will shit the bed or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, there was a lot of giveaways too by Atlanta in this game where the Union couldn't capitalize them on the bad passes out of the back. And I don't know if that's bad luck or what. I think it's just bad form. I think that's what it comes down to, a team that's not confident. I know the players have been saying that they're confident, but when these opportunities come to them, they're not putting the ball in the back of the net. They're not putting the shots on target. But we have another person behind the scenes, Ricky Berry. Welcome to the show, Ricky. Any thoughts you have on the Union's form so far this season, the game against Atlanta? Go ahead and let it be.
Can you hear me fine?
We can.
Okay. So I think the big issue is that like we've had 6 different lineups in the back line, which has caused no consistency whatsoever. And of course, with the front line not doing what I thought they would be doing, I thought there was going to be like good amount of like small possessions, and with Ezekiel being able to like just head it to Bruno, and then he gets like a whole bunch of goals. I also believe I love CCC, but I also think this is the worst year for it, especially when you do a whole rebuild and lack of consistency, since basically we had to get in form ready to start with to start with CCC. So that's me. I'm just a passionate fan, but I just think if there's like small little changes, and as like I've heard, like the small little mistakes always adds up to the giant ones too. So that's just me. So whatever you guys take on it.
Go ahead, Jose.
Well, like Ricky, thank you so much. And I think you're right. I've obviously never played high enough level to really even like consider myself what these guys are doing. Of course, I acknowledge that from the get-go. But I think there is something to what you said and what I've been saying, at least publicly now with Todd today. But he certainly heard me say it for a couple of games now, probably since the beginning of the season. It's all these little dumb mistakes that are just piling on and compiling and just adding more and more that are leading to these goals and leading to bad habits that the Union are being just punished for. If anything, I would argue that the scoreline probably could have been 4-0 when you think about I don't know, Todd. I chuckled when I saw it, but when Nate Harriel thought that there was no one behind him and let the ball through, and Emmanuel Latte-La just sort of appears out of nowhere, getting back from an offside, but he's obviously onside, being held on by Macania, I think, at that point, because I think Blake had kicked it out. But nonetheless, like that's a mistake that imagine if that would have gone against San Diego with the speed that they have, or my goodness, LAFC, or even the Galaxy. Imagine Gabriel Peck getting at the top of that and just completely punishing the Union. So, if anything, the Union are lucky that they played against a player in such bad form up until the Union game of all things, and Emmanuel Latte-La to not punish them. So, yeah, I'm absolutely in line with you. And the CCC comment is also, again, something that we've been talking about for a while. The added games this year will make it very difficult for this team to be good early on, but I don't know. I'm intrigued to hear from you, Ricky, after Todd comments, but the Union win 2-0 against Club America this week. They go on to the next round. We're not feeling quite as bad about this whole thing, are we?
I mean, I wouldn't, but again, like this year is probably the worst year. And then like the other day I was bored and I went through the last couple times that we were in CCC. We never had successful, the 21 and the 23. We didn't have like good years to start. Ironically, our worst year was the best results at the beginning of the season was 2024 when we were playing in CCC, and look how bad we had a 2024. So I don't know. I was bored. I looked. I was like, wow, but I just wasn't expecting this year. So that's my take.
Yeah, we appreciate the comment, Ricky. Thank you for hopping in here with us on the night, and we're enjoying. So people keep clicking that link, keep getting your thoughts into the show, and we'll be sure to talk about it. But one thing that I do want to talk about that Ricky talked about is he talked about the lineup, the starting lineup, having 6 different back lines. That is something, Jose, I do want to touch on, but we'll go ahead and get Sexy Hoagie in here. I don't know how this is going to go, Jose. I mean, sometimes the comments can be wild in the comment section. I think she said she was in an airport. I don't know if I fully believe that, trust that. If so, I guess she's pulling her inner Jose Nunez.
She's talking that shit, I bet.
Oh my gosh, I don't believe it. Hi, Todd. Hi, Jose. Oh my gosh, it's Hoagie here. I'm a longtime listener, first time caller. Thanks so much for taking my call. I just wanted to ask you guys, with the 10 days remaining in the transfer window, one could say we need a whole new team. I was just wondering if you guys had any thoughts or if you've heard any rumors.
You want me to take it, Jose?
Yeah, you can. Hoagie, thank you for calling 281-330-8004.
Look, I will say that this team, I think they know that they're missing a piece or two. They do have the flexibility. If they can go out and get a deal done, then they'll go out and do it. But the one thing I have been told by multiple people is they're not going to go out there and panic buy. That is not what this team is going to do. That's not what this team should do. Yes, you do have flexibility. Yes, you do have maneuverability, but you don't want to go out there and buy a player just for the sake of it because you guys are struggling to get a win. You're struggling to score a goal. So I do think the Union, if it makes sense, I think they will go out and bring another player in. What position that would be, I would imagine attacking midfielder, but I think this fan base might say they need another striker. They might not feel too confident in Damiani. And listening to Bradley Carnell's press conference, the last two about Alado, I don't think that speaks a lot of belief into him either, where he talked about, we have to simplify things with pressing. He's still a young player. We got to be patient with him, but essentially has to get caught up to speed here. And we see him not start this game against Atlanta, where I thought, maybe he would. Maybe you would test an Atlanta backline that's been susceptible with long balls over the top, players running in behind, and we don't see Alado. But Jose, you want to go ahead and take that? Anything you can or want to share?
Nothing really to add beyond what you said. I think this is a team that doesn't buy for the sake of buying. They don't make moves like that, I don't think, and if they're gonna do anything, it'll be calculated. I'm intrigued though. I think if they were to go and seek something, and I think we mentioned it in 398 or 397, whatever the episode was. Creativity is sort of at the heart of, I think, what they would look for on a player. They're likely feeling pretty good about left back, right back, center backs. Obviously, they addressed a little bit in the offseason. Aneo coming in as well. So the creativity angle is probably what they need. But they also need somebody who is a bit of a drone, right? In terms of following the pressing cues and doing everything. So I think it's hard to find the right balance for someone who can be creative, but also be willing to do the mindless running in a way that the Union do to close out cues that they're not doing so well this year compared to previous years. I think even replaying this game, I noticed, and it felt this way, though I need to probably do some more research. Even a team like Atlanta, it felt like they were breaking through their press pretty easily as compared to previous years where, if Damiani went, that means that 6 other players were immediately on the move. This year, it feels like, okay, like 2 are sort of like, all right, I guess I got to run this way. And it doesn't feel like it's quite as coordinated. So I'm intrigued to see if they do anything before the end of the transfer season. And if they do, I hope that it has to do with something in terms of creativity. Thanks for calling, Hoagie.
Yeah,
awesome.
Before we let you go, you brought up a point here where I wanted to bring it up because I think this is spot on. You said, I'm going to let you finish, but I have to remind us all, Mikal Uhre scored 4 goals against Atlanta when he was with the Union. And what I want to bring up about that is the Union don't have a player like Mikal Uhre with all the crap that he got from this fan base with not scoring goals. At least he was stretching the back line, running in behind, and the Union don't have that right now, and they're missing it. I thought that would be Alado, but as this comment had said here a little bit ago, where from Drew, he says, Stas starting every year record signing striker shares the confidence in Alado at this point. Yeah, I thought that Alado would be essentially Mikal Uhre running in behind because we saw his speed, we saw his pace in preseason, but we haven't seen that translate into the actual season. And to your point, Hoagie, I mean, Mikal Uhre did have did have the number of Atlanta United, and that can't be said for any of these players on the field yesterday against Atlanta other than Anello. But yeah, I think they are missing a player like Mikael Uo.
Oh, sorry, I was pulling a Todd there. I had my mic on mute. Yeah, I agree. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Hoagie. Jeez.
I don't know if she's sarcastic.
I think she's 100% sarcastic. She's 100% sarcastic, and you'd love to see it, right? The comment section also giving it back to Hoagie. But look, Jose, I've had it down at the bar for a little bit here, and I'll be frank. Does Bradley Carnell know his best 11? I would say no. You?
Are you asking me if I think he knows his best 11?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Do you recall? I guess it would have been, right? His second year, they would have been tossed into the continental competition with St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to wonder if for Bradley, and I'm intrigued if there's a way that I could ask him this. Like, I would love to hear from him specifically, and it can be off the record just for my own brain, but if he wants to do it during a press conference, that'd be great too. But like, how does he evaluate starting lineups with competitions bookending games, right? Like, how did he decide what he wanted to do this week? And I know a lot of it is probably situational, right? Like, you're only down a goal, technically 2, because it was an away goal against Club America, with the opportunity to go and 2, which feels like a mountain to climb. 2 unanswered gets you through. But how does he go about making some of these decisions? And how does he, I actually was really glad that he addressed the Kevin Sullivan thing, in the press conference, because that was a question. I thought to myself, oh, really interesting that Kevin didn't go in at all. But it certainly was a better situation than what Minnesota did to James Rodriguez. I don't know if you saw that. Minnesota put in James Rodriguez in the 64th minute when they were already down 5-0. Like, I don't know that that's a good spot for a player. Well, granted, it's not Kevin's situation, but that's doing someone dirty on their debut to put them in a 5-0 loss. But I'm not sure if Kevin is the right answer in that game. I know, again, we talk about U.S. men's national team and U.S. youth men's national team crash at accounts about Kevin as of late, and I also agree that wouldn't have been a good one. But I don't know that he knows his best 11, because we see this flip flopping between, like, is Sari? I guess the question is Sari Larson injured or is he not injured? Because I would have thought that he would have been the day in day out starter.
Me too.
From here on out, but it feels like that just. I mean, it doesn't feel it. Objectively, hasn't been the case.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you remember this, Jose, but Jim Curtin, when he was here, he had mentioned it a couple of times, saying that the data would show him and his team, if you change more than 4 players in your starting lineup, it's too much change and you're going to have issues. And Bradley Carnell's been a manager that's not afraid to make changes. He's a manager that's not afraid to play the younger kids. And look, I respect him for that. Last season, he used 29 different lineups in MLS last year. He's already up at 4 this season in MLS. But as Ricky said a little bit ago, it's the continued change of the back line for me. You want to have stability in your back, and I get it, right? You finally go out and you get a left back in Ndinga. That's fine. He'll probably be a locked-in starter. I thought, to your point you just said, I thought Sari Larson would be a locked-in starter with Makanya. And then you rotate either Frankie Westfield and Nathan Harriel at right back. But yet, time and time again, we continue to see the back line get mixed up. And I've said it on the show multiple times in the past. The best part about the team is your spine. You build from the spine. Your center backs, your defensive midfielders, your attacking midfielders, and your goalkeeper. Why do you mess with the spine? And we've also seen that at the center defensive midfield spot this season too, with Jesus Bueno rotating in, with Danley rotating in, with Jovan Lukic rotating in. I get it, right? Jovan was dealing with that rib injury, and so that's part of it. But then the game against Club America, you sit Danley in a game. I thought that Danley probably should have started against Club America. I think that he has that fight, that spark, that that those type of games require. And somehow, some way, the Union only concede 1 goal in that game. But yeah, I do not like the constant change in the back line, the constant change in the forward pairing. I don't believe Bradley Carnell knows his best line. I really don't. Forward and left back are the 2 spots that you change this game, and you or the 2 changes that were big for this team. Center back, yeah, I think losing Glesnes does hurt a little bit, but overall, I do think that the Union needed to get younger in that position. I think they needed to add more pace. And so the Union go out and replace Kai Wagner. That's a difficult task, a really, really tough task. And you go out and try to replace Uwe and Baribo. Theoretically, I don't think it should have been that hard to replace either player. But right now, 4 games into the season, it's saying, hey, look, Baribo scoring goals down in DC. I think 2 from the penalty spot, 1 from open play. But what forwards on this team have goals in MLS this season? I don't know what you consider Anello. And a winger, I think, is what he is naturally, and we know the Union don't play with them. But yeah, it's too much change, and I think Bradley Carnell is trying to look for a spark any way he can get it, whether it be from the forward line, whether it be from the center back partnership, and yeah, you once again change the back line. You concede 3 goals again. I don't think it's really all on the defense this game. I think Danley and Jovan, like we said at the beginning of the show, just got cut apart way too easy. But yeah, it's just way too much changing right now. And I think part of that is Bradley Carnell doesn't know his best 11.
And it doesn't feel like he will know until he's out of CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? I think that's where you really start seeing who will be the I don't know, let's call it the lock-in starters, right? And we've joked about it. And with Jim Curtin, you could predict 10 out of the 11 players every single match. With Bradley, it added some wild cards for sure, but certainly a lot less than this year, where I still remember, again, it wasn't that long ago, but I still genuinely remember your face when I showed you the roster for the Club America game, being like, oh my gosh, okay, well, good luck. And, it'll be fun to watch, I guess. And just, it feels like there won't be a firm decision on what it looks like until one of these competitions go away. But then they're going to be tossed in 2 other ones as well. So I hope that they're able to sort this out. And if it's injury driven, I'm really intrigued to hear what is the injury for a Sari Larson, for example, or what is the reason that he is bouncing around as much as he is. Because again, you and I have said it, you just said it. I would have thought he would have been a locked in starter every single week, considering the role that they, I think, had hoped he would play and is playing, I guess.
Do you think it was too much change, Jose? I think both of us agree that the moves that they made were good moves. You get the money for these players that you probably wouldn't have got if you would have waited. And I get Kai Wagner, that whole situation. The Union had agreed with him. Kai told us if a legitimate offer came that the Union were going to go ahead and take that to him in his camp. And Kai winds up leaving. But Baribo and Glesnes, sure, they could have held on to both of those players if they wanted to. But I think both of those offers that they got were just too good to turn down. And this game, Jose, okay, you only start 2 new players in Ndinga and in Krasnowski. Everybody else was with the team last season. Blake, Westfield, Harry, Makanya, Alaski, Danley, Lukic, Vasilev, Damiani. They should have some sort of chemistry, and we're not seeing it. It's the passes. It's guys running into the same space. It's players falling asleep. It's guys being late to their tackles. And I'm a little bit shocked by that, to be honest, Jose, where, yeah, you have 9 of the 11 starters in this game that have been with the team in the past, and they look like they've never played with each other ever.
Yeah, I mean, this is also a team that, when we were breaking down why they did what they did when they did in terms of moving on from players, they wanted to get younger, and they wanted to get younger quick. And with getting younger, you also get cheaper, to be completely blunt, right? I mean, we're also going into the second week of, or I should say a week since, close to anyways, LA Galaxy just handed Jacob Glesnes a contract that will have him there until he's 35. The Union were definitely not going to do that. You also have our DC United. Sure, he has scored. And I really hope the potentially anti-Semitic comment that was made against Ty Baribo is not something that actually happened. Apparently, they had to pause the game in the 74th minute of the Chicago DC game because Ty supposedly heard something said his way, some sort of comment from a fan, I think it was. I hope that isn't true. But DC United are now with a player that's just worth a lot more money than I think he actually is worth in terms of salary. But good for him from getting it. So did they move around or move off of a lot of players? Yes. Was it smart? I think so. I think this is genuinely growing pains, but it's not helping when you're having these growing pains, but also, I don't think you experiment even with two players if you're trying to win your very first game of the season after an 0-3 start. That's just me. But it was genuinely just two players. And they just should have been a lot better yesterday. There's no denying it.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll take a couple more callers if people want to go ahead and chime in, get your thoughts in from this game against Atlanta. Any questions for Jose and I? Talk about the season overall. Again, people that are just joining, you can go ahead on YouTube and click the link to StreamYard in the show description. It'll bring you into the studio and we'll bring you into the show. Or if you guys want to hit Jose and I up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, DM us. We'll send you the link so you guys can go ahead, call in. But as we begin to wrap up the show here, Jose, I do want to play that clip from earlier that I was talking about where Bradley Carnell talked about a little bit of anxiety, and he talked about the team just essentially getting back to the basics.
Yeah, listen, I think, when you get punched in the face once and then you get the penalty and unfortunately don't convert, then you're staring down the barrel. One, of a result, two, adversity. And then again, we I thought when Ale came on, he created a little bit of calmness. He created a lot of quality in certain moments. And then we started to, get a little bit of a grasp on what we were trying to do and how we can execute it. And then, I counted three, I think, in the second half where we had really good opportunities and really good moments and unfortunately just couldn't execute. And then, on a positive, we scored a goal from open play, which, at least we broke that duck now. I just think it's about being braver in the final third to get balls in the box, especially when we're playing two strikers, framing the box, keeping it nice and tight, and to mitigate the transitional moments. So, there's a lot of, I would say, and I don't want to say anxiety, but there's a lot of that floating around, especially when things don't go your way, and where it feels like every bounce is going to the opponent, and how do you work that back in your favor? It's by doing the basics really well. And we're letting ourselves down with the basics right now.
And the basics are 100% the pressing cues, winning the ball back on the press, and the Union aren't pressing. And so, I don't know, it is interesting to hear Bradley Carnell mention, a little bit anxiety, saying he doesn't want to use that word, but what other word are you going to use other than anxiety? And it's interesting, just a couple of days ago, talked to Milan Oloski, Anello, and Harry in the locker room, and said the team's still confident. Before that, Frankie Westfield said the team's still confident. And now I do wonder, has something changed with the players? Do they no longer feel confident? Bradley Carnell says, it's he doesn't want to use anxiety, but he uses the word anxiety, and it's about getting back to the basics. And this team's at their best when they're pressing and forcing turnovers, and it's just simply not happening right now, Jose.
The pressing is the number one thing, right? I remember Bradley's introductory, I guess, press conference where he talked about, how important it's going to be to press, how important it's to force turnovers, the way that they're going to score goals, which is another topic altogether. I don't know what's going on with I do know what's going on. Kai Wagner's not there. I get that. But those set pieces have just been putrid this year. Just really, really bad set pieces. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Just really, really bad set pieces. I think I joked about it last week when we got together, but Milan Iloski's free kick from the Club America game might have just landed like 5 minutes ago. I don't went to outer space and back. I don't think that they're really taking advantage of those for sure. And I would lump that into opportunities, of course. But the anxiety and the confidence, I think, will start really coming in once they start doing these little things that, just like when the bad things pile up, the little mistakes pile up, doing the right things, they pile up as well. And I think that will lead them to finding themselves in a good situation, finding themselves winning their first MLS game. They've obviously won this season, albeit against Defense Force. But it certainly feels like that's never going to happen for them right now based on how things are going. Of course, that's not true. I think that they will absolutely win plenty of games this season. It's just, it doesn't get any easier right now with Chicago coming into town. That is not a bad team. A bad team was supposed to be Atlanta, per se. But they squandered that opportunity. I just don't know when the next gimme would be, which maybe it's good if they get a win against a good Chicago side, right? I guess the question would be, and I guess also defeats the Montreal April 11, Charlotte April 4. Charlotte's not a bad team. Montreal's not a good team. You know, like it's the chances for some of these easy games that they had last year are running out. They had a nice easy stretch this year to begin, but they squander that. So I don't know. I just hope they're able to turn it around, and I think they will.
Yeah, I wonder if teams look at the Union now as the easy team.
It feels that way now. I mean,
wonder,
it's justifiable.
Yeah, I wonder if. Yeah, but I mean, it just seems like teams know how to beat the press now. They pass out of the press, and after they pass the first line of the press, it feels like it just opens up for the opposition to then go ahead and hit on counterattacks or just quick transition moments. But as we begin to wrap up here, I'm going to play one more clip from Bradley Carnell, just essentially talking about players needing to step up, players going from boys into men. And yeah, these tough moments that the team's in is where you're really going to start to see those players step up.
You know, you look at one glass is half full and one glass is half empty, right? So if you weren't getting there, you would be like, man, what are we doing not to get there, right? So, but the question is for me, how are we getting there, and what is the quality of the moments when we are there? And today I did see a little bit of that in the second half, right? So it took us 39 minutes to run in behind once, and Indy gets a running behind, and that was just before halftime. So, you know, stretching the opponent and playing everything, you know, kind of short and underneath, it's just not us right now. But then we do stick to us and we do be us, and then you can see how dangerous it becomes. So again, moments of or glimpses of what we can achieve as a group, and then many moments of us learning and growing again. So, you know, when we put under pressure, when we fall down and concede the way we did, these are learning moments. These are growing moments. And you know, we said we're waiting for a lot of leadership on and off the field. We're waiting for a lot of this, and I've seen guys grow. But now when we get tested, now let's see. We want to make sure that we stand there and face whatever confronting us, be open to it, be having a growth mindset to exploring what's wrong. And this is the times when we now get challenged, because now we separate the men from the boys.
Yeah, and I guess we had mentioned them a couple of times, Jose. I think 3-4 games, the 2 games in 4 games in 3 games in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think it's by far best player of the season has been Frankie Westfield, and I don't think it's been close. We had talked about it 2 episodes ago, I think. That, yeah, I mean, Frankie, for only being 20 years old, this guy speaks as a future captain, speaks as one of the leaders already on this team, and it's crazy to believe that he's only 20 years old, being that confident, facing the media so young, and seemingly having the right things to say at such a young age. And I get it, right? He was an assistant captain with Union 2, but let's face it, Union 2 isn't Philadelphia Union first team. But again, I mean, I think coaches see him as a natural leader. I think Frankie is one of those players that could help bring this team out of a rut. Now you need other players to step up. Who's going to step up? Who's going to take accountability? Who's going to help push his team forward like a Frankie Westfield? Because you had said it, Jose, right? He gets the assist on the goal, has good moments going forward like we saw with Kai Wagner last year. And I think I can't remember now, whether that was on this podcast or privately, Frankie Westfield is a player that Kai Wagner thinks highly of, thinks he has a bright future. I think we've seen it last season. I think we've seen it this season. And so if you can get more players to not saying the team isn't giving 100%, but trying something different, right? Not forcing the ball, keeping things simple. Bradley Carnell talked about it right there in the clip, right? Where, yeah, just short, simple passing. That's not the Union. Get a little bit creative. Do a little bit different. And sometimes, too, I don't know if you caught this in the game, Jose, when the Union got into good positions, it's lazy backheeled passes. It's like, what are we doing? Like, why are we trying to make things overcomplicated?
Yeah, no, I'll say it, like Milanowski, offender number one of the shitty flick, trying to flip something on and whatever. Like not a just need the. I know you said get creative, but you get creative when you get confidence. You get confidence by doing the little things right, even if that means completing the short, easy pass. So then you feel ready and comfortable that when you see the long pass that's gonna skip 7 different players and different layers of defense, like you feel good about it. So I really appreciated that Bradley Carnell press conference, because I don't want to say for once I feel like he was talking from his heart, but like this one felt like, okay, he really means this. He wants to see who's gonna step up and be the fucking captain of this team, because right now it feels kind of aimless, right? And sure, you have Andre Blake, who's got years of experience in MLS and internationally, but like, who else is going to be on the field doing some of that work, right? Alejandro Bedoya comes in and puts in a solid 15-20 minutes most games, longer if he comes in earlier. But is it going to be Jovan? Is it going to be Danley? Is it going to be someone else who's going to step up and say, listen, I'm not Nate Harriel? Is he going to step up and say, listen, I'm not just the vibes guy. I'm here to be the fucking, co-captain. I'm here to help out. I'm here to step up and be the first one to do right and people follow, right? It's going to take something. And I think at some point the dam's going to break. I think the Union genuinely will go on a nice 3, 4, 5 match winning streak. But until then, man, something needs to change. And I think it's Bradley Carnell's right. It's going to have to be within the personnel, within the people there, to just find it within themselves. Because it's even if you were to add one incredible creative player right now, I think that there's currently way too many smaller problems that are mounting up to something that one player can't change. I mean, I just don't see how one player can do that. So this is one of the best Bradley Carnell press conferences, not because of being clip material or anything like that, but just like genuine honesty of what's going wrong with this team right now. It was awesome.
Yeah, I agree, and you can't say that he doesn't care. I don't know if any fans feel that he doesn't care if he's out of ideas. No, he very much so cares. And so we said it at the beginning. I don't think this is St. Louis 2.0 in the second season. Mark Makes Movies says, I wonder how far this young squad could actually go at their best. And look, I love CCC, Jose, and I know you were joking and said watch the Union go down to Mexico and win 2-0. But I honestly think it would probably be best for this team if they get knocked out and now they can go back to having 4 weeks of training, continue to work on that chemistry. Yes, the best chemistry is playing actual games, but yeah, I think this team just needs more full weeks together where they can look at video longer. They can spend longer time on the practice field, go over every little bit of detail, making sure that they come out guns a-blazing in the actual games. And then the last thing I want to pull up from Mark Makes Movies. He said, "How many losses in a row before we get another town hall?" Look, I thought after the last episode where I called out fans, I thought maybe they would be joining the podcast tonight and calling me out, and yeah, maybe eventually fans start calling out the ownership group once again, and maybe they get yet again another town hall. But yeah, I don't think this is what we're going to see from the team for majority of the season. It's rough. It sucks right now. It's difficult to go through, especially coming off of winning the Supporters Shield last year. But it's growing pains. It's a lot of changes, and I have confidence in Bradley Carnell and this coaching staff. I have confidence in the players, even though we're not really seeing it on the field right now. I have confidence in the front office that went out and got these players that said, look, these players can make a difference. These players can buy into our culture, can fit into our team, what Bradley Carnell and his staff want to play. It's just about getting those pieces to gel. And right now they're not gelling. And I said it a moment ago. I think what's best for this team is getting knocked out of Champions Cup and having 4 weeks of training.
Having a solid week or two of training would go a long way. Because at this point, they would have played at this point last year, they would have played a total of 3 games? Not I think at this point, they're double that? So yeah, certainly a different circumstance. But all we can say is that we'll be there to follow it. We'll be there to talk about it. We'll be there to chat with you all and connect with you all. Mike Barrera as well and myself with ATT. I know ATT Sports. I know Todd, you joined as well from time to time with the pre and post game show. So it's going to be a long season, guys. It's going to be really, really interesting. I was talking to Kevin Kincaid. I'll be with him tomorrow to bring a level head to the conversation about the Union. I know his title for the show tomorrow on It's Always Soccer in Philadelphia is "We Suck Again," which is hilarious. But it would be such an Union thing, again, to go 0-4 in the league and then somehow make it to the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And who knows, maybe it's a run longer than just the quarterfinals. But all that to say, it's a very long season. And this is, 4 games out of 37? Yeah, sure, Supporter Shield's gone, but just got to get into the playoffs. And a lot of teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, very much so. And then I feel like once the playoffs started, it's a crapshoot. But Jose, anything you want to plug, anything you want to say before we wrap the show up?
No, gigantic thank you. Last night for MLS, I had to write a story on the NYCFC beating Colorado. So if you see that on MLSsoccer.com, and try to read it if you can, enjoy it. Match reaction, and super quick, digestible piece for you to enjoy. And beyond that, just trying to find some time here after my trip at the end of this coming week. So likely beginning of April, finally starting to think about who's next on the docket to potentially get on the microphone to interview and just hear more about. I know we were on a nice stretch there with Kai and Danny Cruz and what else, but I think I've had some pleasant surprises in my messages over the past couple of weeks that I think will, again, help inform the fans, players, former coaches, former staff members. They're all eager to talk about the Union. Everybody seems to be engaged for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys aren't following him on social media, Jose R. Nunez 91. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast of The Free Kick, make sure to check out the YouTube channel live every single podcast, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod, where you can also check out the goals breakdown videos. To be determined if we do a goals breakdown video for this Atlanta game. I'll be honest, guys. Just busy week. And if you guys want to check out the writing goals breakdown video or the podcast all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. But last thing I'll say before we go, thank you so much, seriously, for the people that called into the show, you guys interacting with the comment section. A lot of fun, honestly. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. Wasn't sure if we were just going to get some troll calls. And people brought up some very good points, very good questions. And so maybe this is something we do going forward. Maybe I just, from now on, just put the link in the show description on YouTube. And if people want to chime in and give thoughts on how the Union game went, how the season's going. Maybe that's something we do going forward. Maybe you guys get more comfortable and want to join after we have 3 people join tonight. But again, thank you to everybody that joined in the comment section, everybody that joined into the live, and yeah, really looking forward to the game on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, 9 p.m. against Club America, and then back home on Saturday against Chicago Fire. Get to see Jack Elliott once again at Subaru Park. And will that be the Union's first win in the MLS regular season? We shall see. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.